You guys should be hearing me in 2 places. Okay. Holy shit. All right, hold on. Okay. All right, I'm live on YouTube now. Imagine if the left had done this. Literally fucking imagine. There are actively protesters in the Capitol.
Because I think he thinks there might be an opportunity here. I think that's the way he operates. And he sees, you know,
this is the closest I've ever had to fucking work. Okay.
What we're seeing now,
everyone
here,
here,
what we're seeing now are those armed police on the steps of the Capitol facing off against the protesters.
So
John, Carl Termaran used the word insulated right there. And it does appear that, you know, every president of the United States ends up being in something of a bubble. It's hard to escape when you're surrounded by Secret Service, surrounded by acolytes and aides for 4 years. In this case, it's even more profound. Many wonder, does the president even believe what he's saying? Does he know the difference between true and false?
George, I was just on the phone with the president's former chief of staff, John Kelly, so I didn't fully hear your question, but he was reacting in horror to what he had seen. He told me this is as un-American as anything I have seen, and he also said this is what happens when you take the attitude of let's just let Trump be Trump, a criticism of those currently around the president, including his current chief of staff, Mark Meadows.
Okay, we're seeing President-elect Biden now addressing cameras. Let's listen in. Thank you, John.
I'm sorry, not just an inconvenience, but I'm sorry for the reason
Joe Biden speaking.
I've delayed coming out to speak to you. I initially was going to talk about the economy, but all of you have been watching what I've been watching.
Is my mic still muted? No, it's not.
Our democracy is under an unprecedented assault, unlike anything we've seen in modern times. An assault on the citadel of liberty, the Capitol itself. An assault on the people's representatives.
All right.
And the Capitol Hill Police.
Can you hear me now?
Sworn to protect them.
Okay.
And the public servants who work at the heart of our republic. An assault on the rule of law like few times we've ever seen it. An assault on the most sacred of American undertakings, the doing of the people's business. Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now. I call on this mob to pull back and allow the work of democracy to go forward. You've heard me say before in different contexts, the words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president is. At their best, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst,
you get Donald Trump.
They can incite. And therefore, I call on President Trump to go on national television now.
Yup. Hold his ass
to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
Thank you.
To storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection.
Thank you.
The world's watching. Like so many other Americans, I am genuinely shocked and saddened that our nation, so long the beacon of light and hope for democracy, has come to such a dark moment. Through war and strife, America's endured much. And we will endure here, and we will prevail again, and will prevail now. The work of the moment and the work of the next 4 years must be the restoration of democracy, of decency, honor, respect, the rule of law, just plain, simple decency. The renewal of the politics. It's about solving problems, looking out for one another, not stoking the flames of hate and chaos. As I said, America's about honor, decency, respect, tolerance. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. The certification of the Electoral College vote is supposed to be a sacred ritual, which we affirm. The purpose is to affirm the majesty of American democracy. But today's reminder, a painful one, that democracy is fragile, and to preserve it requires people of goodwill, leaders with the courage to stand up, who are devoted not to the pursuit of power.
The fact that Trump still hasn't spoke yet is fucking ridiculous.
Personal interest pursuits of their own selfish interest at any cost, but of the common good. Think what our children watching television are thinking. Think what the rest of the world is looking at. For nearly 2.5 centuries, we, the people, in search of a more perfect union, have kept our eyes on that common good. America is so much better than what we've seen today. Watching the scenes from the Capitol, I was reminded, as I prepared other speeches in the past, I was reminded of the words of Abraham Lincoln in his annual message to Congress, whose work has today been interrupted by chaos. Here's what Lincoln said. He said, "We shall nobly save or merely lose the last best hope on earth." Went on to say, "The way is plain, peaceful, generous,
They're still
just.
On the steps.
A way which, if followed, the world will forever applaud, and God must forever bless." The way is plain here, too. That's who we are. It's the way of democracy, of respect, of decency, of honor, and commitment as patriots to this nation. Notwithstanding what I saw today and we're seeing today, I remain optimistic about the incredible opportunities. There has never been anything we can't do when we do it together. And this god-awful display today is bringing home to every Republican and Democrat and Independent in the nation that we must step up. This is the United States of America. There's never, ever, ever, ever been a thing we've tried to do that we've done it together. We've not been able to do it. So, President Trump, step up. May God bless America. May God protect our troops and all those folks at the Capitol who are trying to preserve order. Thank you, and I'm sorry to have kept you waiting.
The words of a president there from the president-elect, Joe Biden, saying America is so much better than what we're seeing.
Fucking mental. When I tell you, this is absolutely absurd. Like the extent to which this is unheard of, and this is like literally antithetical to every single fucking concept they've tried to push on us this like past year. The entire time, the Republicans got to sit there and placate as if they're the ones who actually genuinely give a fuck about law and order, and the BLM is acting out and single-handedly get the support of BLM by trying to point out every single little individual action that people did. And now this. Nobody fucking died. There's not been a fucking concerted effort to erase conservatives from the planet. There's not been police brutality against conservatives to the point where they have to now sit down and give talks to their children before they let them go off as to what to do when you get pulled over. This has never happened to them. They lost one time. And this is their fucking reaction. Wow. They're flying American flags as they're attacking the Capitol building. Look at this bullshit. Look at the fucking contradiction. Conservatives, the type to say we're so American and wave American flags while simultaneously breaking into the most American fucking building on the planet. Oh, my head.
Presidential tone in doing so. This was a tricky line, though, he had to walk. Obviously, he doesn't want to come out and pour any more, fuel on the fire here, but coming out and in very stark terms, laying out, not just what's at stake here, but what the country is seeing. And, he was made it pretty clear without saying it explicitly that he believes the president bears responsibility.
You just realized something. You realized what? I saw a Trump cape, yeah. Okay, I'll share this. Like, please, this is insane. Like, because you wanna know what's funny? It's hilarious because the left would be much more justified in going to this extent than the right is. The left, the people who are fighting for the marginalized groups in the country, the people who are fighting for groups who have always been shit on by the American government, by the right, by mainstream America, we'd be more justified storming the Capitol in order to finally have our fucking voices heard than they are. Because what? Trump lost. Mother Nature needs to hurry up with natural selection. I'm saying, right? The lack of masks, too. The amount of people, COVID is going to explode in D.C. now. Not only is COVID going to explode in D.C., now they have to find out how to fix the fucking building. Isn't it hilarious that they complain about, like, taxes and shit, but they're attacking a building paid by tax? What the fuck?!
And I cannot thank the Capitol Police enough for the job that they have to do. They broke windows. They overran the building. We had to stop our proceedings in the middle of it. And as a nation, I know we sit back and
imagine if BLM did this shit.
I want everybody to take a deep breath and understand we all have some responsibility here. I don't care what we've ever.
They're going into fucking window.
To one another. We are all Americans. We need to stop. We can disagree with one another, but to take it to the level has gone beyond anything I've ever envisioned that was possible in this nation.
And we're seeing the images of smoke inside the Capitol building, the protesters walking freely through
They're just
Statuary
waltzing
Hall.
through the Capitol.
The fact of the matter is that President Trump has not condemned this, has not called on the protesters to stand down.
He hasn't condemned. We're going to his fucking Twitter.
Can you convince him to come out right now? Will you do that?
We're going to his fucking Twitter. This is how I made my last fucking thumbnail. If you haven't followed me on Twitter already, do that. The link to all my socials are in the description of this live, by the way.
I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side.
This is the fucking problem. You can't come out and tell people to stand down and shit while simultaneously parroting the reason why they're fucking rioting. Imagine if they told Joe Biden to come out and denounce the BLM protest, and he's like, I know you're hurt, and black people have continuously been systematically oppressed and fought against or whatever by the cops, and continues to list all the reasons why we're protesting while simultaneously saying, oh, but you gotta stop. But nah, you don't get to fucking say stand down while you actually fucking repeat the reason why they're out there.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order.
And notice how he fucking tweets this. He tweeted it. He didn't go on national TV. He tweeted it. You know what a fucking competent president does? He sits down in the situation, not the situation room, in the Oval Office, turns on the fucking camera, and broadcasts to every news station saying, I wholeheartedly condemn this act of insurrection on the United States Capitol. Everyone who supports me needs to go home and stand down. I utterly condemn this. That's what he does. This fucking idiot, and you know Trump supporters are gonna go and talk, oh, but he condemned it. This idiot goes on Twitter, on his fucking Twitter, and release a 1-minute video where at the beginning he says, they stole the election from me, they know they stole the election from me, and then proceeds to say we need to have peace. My guy, you're stating the reason why they're out there. They're not gonna fucking listen to you now. And they're not gonna be looking at your goddamn Twitter.
We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country.
Who's they? The they are your people who are fucking rioting right now. Oh, my at? Oh, my Twitter is jwilliamj8.
This was a fraudulent election. But
this is the fucking issue that we're talking about. He keeps doing it. He keeps doing it. He's incapable. He's fucking incapable of just saying he lost. He's incapable.
But we can't play into the hands of these people.
Who's the people?
From all of us. From me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election. But we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happened.
They're fucking children. They're children. Oh my God. I love when someone pointed that out. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. Remember when black people and BLM were protesting outside the White House? It was when the looting starts, the shooting starts. These fucking thugs get off the property. But when they're literally attacking the Capitol, it's, we love you, you're very special, but you have to go home now. What the fuck?
I know your pain, election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel, but go home and go home in peace.
Yes, he's very much a good president. He's definitely not a fascist. He's fueling it. 3/4 of that video was saying, they stole the election from me. They know they stole the election from me. You're very special. We love you. We feel your pain. We understand your pain. The other 1/4 of that video was, but go home, please. Yes, because because that's how a president reacts when people are storming the fucking Capitol. If you're trying to distinct yourself from them, or you're trying to say, hey, I don't agree with what's going on here, the way to do that is not to release a 1-minute Twitter video where you say, please go home, we love you, we care, we understand your frustration, but please go home. By the way, they stole the fucking election from me. If you're trying to distinguish yourself from them, you're fucking failing. Remember, we are the party of law and order. No, the fuck you're not, and you've never been. The claim of election fraud is disputed. Might I remind you that all he was supposed to say there was go home and I utterly condemn what's going on here. That's all he had to fucking say. And Twitter still had to flag his stupid ass claim of fraud because he's incapable. Or Trump supporters are leftist agitators. I want you to know that the only basis that they have for saying that this is a leftist agitator is that he's wearing black. They're gonna find all. Wow. 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 Twitter just made it so nobody can retweet or comment on Trump's recently posted video. Yeah, probably because it's full of fucking bullshit-ass lies, along with a, please go home. Here's Trump telling the white supremacists at the Capitol that they're very special, but they have to go home now. And then after some wittering about the need for there to be no violence, he continues to talk about the evil and stolen election. I'm retweeting that. This fucking idiot. Just watch Joe Biden's incredibly inspiring 8-minute speech only to be followed by Donald Trump's 45 seconds of some absolute bullshit. Like, what? Idiots, all of them. Literally, what the fuck is going on, dog?
It's a half a loaf at best. Well, one of the things that President Trump insists upon is that he not ever be considered a loser. And I think this, in some ways, is gasoline on the fire. And in some ways, he may have lost control of these people. I remember I was at the rally where the crowd chanted, send her back about Ilhan Omar. And it seemed to me as if it was a moment when the crowd took that energy out from Trump himself, and they were in control. It's possible this mob is in control. This Trumpist mob is now in control, and he can't call them back. But that was a half-hearted effort at best.
At best. Again, he did repeat that the election was stolen, repeated that falsehood that the election was stolen. Sarah Fagan, it does.
Oh, wait a minute! The guy that they just... Guys, I'm posting this clip to my fucking TikTok. The guy that they just took a picture here saying leftist agitators is the same fucking dude that just was sitting there on the fucking floor of the Senate. Hold on, let me try to focus the camera. The same guy that they just said, oh, maybe a leftist agitator, is the same dude in this picture who was sitting on the fucking seat of the floor of the Senate saying that Trump won the election. A Trump supporter just took over the stage on the microphone floor and is yelling, Trump won the election. That guy with the black and the little gray scarf on. Oh, shit, went to the wrong camera. That's this guy. That's fucking this guy. Or leftist agitators? Are you fucking shitting me? Wow. That is hilarious to me. No, my guy, these are not leftists. These are Trump supporters. This you? This is literally a fucking walking this you. Ryan O'Handley? Oh, you're getting shit on. The fact that 452,000 people follow him is baffling. If Trump wins the election, that means that I'm Michael Jackson. Exactly. Might as fucking well be. There's no way in hell.
You're starting to see more Republicans speak
groups. They do have communications still in this area where the security entrance is to the Capitol. They are still demanding to be let in. If you talk to them about what happened inside the Capitol, they blame the Capitol Police for that. And they keep saying
if this was BLM, they wouldn't still be talking. George, literally.
You can see Capitol Police.
If this was BLM,
keeping people back, there aren't as
they'd
many
be
people
freaking the fuck out.
On the sides of the Capitol, on the north side of the Capitol.
They charge that
walking
police.
Around here, these people have no intention of leaving. George.
Okay, Martha, thanks very much. I want to bring in Josh Margolin, one of our national security correspondents. And Josh, one of the big questions we've been dealing with all day is,
if this was BLM, it would be a massacre.
Why weren't the Capitol Police, why weren't law enforcement officials better prepared for what's unfolded?
Look, George, honestly, law enforcement has a lot to answer for here. Somebody dropped the ball because we in the civilian world, in the private sector, were well aware of online threats and chatter, as they call it, calling for violence, calling for people to show up. You know, they were saying things that I don't think we want to repeat here about the types of violence they were calling for. But this is weeks. Companies in and around the Capitol had their own intelligence operations telling them to be careful of their people, to be on guard, to take precautions. Law enforcement certainly knew that there was at least a serious threat of violence, even if they didn't necessarily know precisely what was going to go on.
If Antifa would, they're already trying to fucking say that Antifa's doing this somehow.
It has gotten out of control, and we've seen some combat, some law enforcement in combat gear head into the Capitol. We've seen them deploy on parts of the Capitol step. What is the plan going forward, as far as you know?
Well, obviously what's happening now, as we've been reporting, and people on our special report have seen people mobilizing, they're trying to bring in the National Guard, other agencies. But, there's a complex, situation.
Oh, and this is a little, if I can provide a little argument for you guys. If anyone tries to tell you that, the leftist agitators or whatever, first of all, they're a fucking crazy person. But second of all, even if there's some leftist people in here trying to pose as Trump supporters, if you're going to make that the grounds to discredit the whole thing by just saying it was leftist agitators, then why can't we call everyone at Charlottesville a fucking neo-Nazi? Because the people who got that permit to hold the rally were neo-Nazis. There was a torch march the night before. There were people screaming, "Jews will not replace us." So why can we say there were very fine people on both sides and to make a distinction between the people who were just there to protest the statue and the neo-Nazis, but then you guys can simultaneously say, "Oh, it was leftist agitators here." You fucking kidding me? Fuck off. Literally fuck off.
Thomas, so they're just going to wait them out, perhaps?
As Josh alluded to, you've got to get the force together. They've got to get all the different agencies together.
I'm going live on TikTok, too.
And they have to come up with a plan that they can execute to try to de-escalate if they can, and then be prepared for things to go
My advice,
badly
use CNN. As far as I'm concerned, they hate Trump like Trump's hate women.
Striking to people, I'm sure, at home, as the fact that
there
was not a contingency plan that could be executed faster than this.
CNN isn't live right now. Why are they never fucking live? They're never doing live news coverage. I can't be bothered. I'm going back to ABC,
By white supremacists and other domestic terror groups has been out there and building for the last several years.
Oh, he's been declared the winner on CNN? Yeah.
That's right, George. Even in the Turner Diaries, you see like one of the opening scenes of the
welcome. I went live on TikTok. My TikTok feed's right here. I'm live on YouTube right now, so if you care, go watch it on my channel. We are
to be mostly organic.
This is insane.
Clearly, there were threat actors in the midst of protesters.
This is fucking ridiculous.
Willing to incite, willing to encourage people to cross lines, and some of those came prepared for a fight. And I think the concern that I have,
when I'm looking here, I'm looking here at my stream chat and the
officers' minds that are on the scene is which of these individuals that have breached the Capitol are willing to cross the line to violence. They've already crossed other legal thresholds, but we hope and pray that they don't go further at this point.
No, this is
so
insane.
What will they have to do? What is the best way for this to be taken on at this point, given the fact that it's such a huge
The Republicans
complex,
have lost the. Let me just.
And
let's just review. Let's just review. Year in review, kind of. Not even a year. Just the past few months of review. The Republicans lost the general election, lost all their court cases of fraud, lost the Supreme Court, lost in the Supreme Court because they didn't even want to fucking hear the case. Oh, Jesus Christ. All this, I just seen a thing with all the senators on the floor and stuff, basically. Lost in the Supreme Court because they didn't want to hear the case. They've now lost the Senate runoffs. They've lost control of the Senate. They've been lost the House, and they've basically lost everything at this point. So what their reaction is, hold on, my camera battery just died. Their reaction now is to storm the Capitol and everything. Remember when Trump a few years ago said you're going to get so tired of winning and everything? Looks like they got tired of winning really fucking quickly. They must have gotten tired of winning really fucking quickly. The election is over. And you want to know what's hilarious? Mike Pence was about to be the one who had to say it too. The election's over. The election's been over. There's nothing we can do at this point. Hold on a sec. Let me make sure this cam's still on. Alright, this should be good now.
The opportunity to de-escalate the situation when the president released the statement where, as you just pointed out, he blended together this idea of going home and the fact that the election was stolen. That's why these people are here. And I would actually argue this wasn't just simply an organic, spontaneous protest. This is the result of weeks and weeks of disinformation being spread by the president, his supporters in Capitol Hill, people who support him in the media, individuals on social media. These people are reacting to the planning that took place in social media and that disinformation. So what do they need to do now? They're going to need to declare this as an unlawful assembly. They need to give people opportunity to clear the grounds peacefully. Then they need to remove people from the building. They need to clear the building. We saw videos of people going into the Capitol with large knapsacks. We've already got reports of explosive devices being located around Washington potentially. They need to make sure there's no explosives in the Capitol. They need to clear the grounds of the Capitol, and then they need to clear the street. And they need to keep people off the streets this evening, because, as Pierre pointed out, there's probably a very high likelihood that violence would continue if you have large groups of people in and around the streets of D.C. That's where law enforcement's going to be focusing now.
And that's the question. Will the crowd be diminishing or not? It appears to have been growing over the last couple of hours. John Cohen, thanks very much. Let me bring Chris Christie back. We do have him connected right now. Well, Chris, the president did come out with a statement wrapped in propaganda.
Yeah, George, listen, I think that the statement was
for some reason my camera has stopped
one step
working,
forward,
so.
2 steps back attempt.
Yeah, when Black Lives Matter people were actually protesting
to make it unequivocal that these actions by these protesters is absolutely un-American and reprehensible. And there can't be any ambiguity about that. And I think there was a lot of ambiguity in that statement. Listen, I'm glad he did at least what he did. It's better than having done nothing, but it's certainly not what should be expected of a president in this circumstance.
It's hard not to contrast the message saying we love you, you're very special to supporters, that you're right, that the election was stolen, with what the words he had for Black Lives Matter's protesters all through this summer, calling for law and order.
Well, George, at the end of it, what you're supposed to do as an elected official in this country who takes a constitutional oath is to always remember that the office you hold is bigger than you. Your responsibility in that office is bigger than you and your own personal interests. And I think that what that video showed was that the president was still placing his personal interests ahead of the interests of the country. And that's what we've been doing for the last 8 weeks, unfortunately. And this is a result. What we're seeing on the air right now is the result of that. And that's what we need to make sure we get back to in this country, is that
I apologize for whatever that is
are
going
a
on my
temporary
face
public trust that you hold and hold.
Yeah, they
with
literally
honor.
just let them in the fucking
And
thing.
you can never allow your personal interest to overcome the interest that you're elected to serve. And unfortunately, I think the video showed that while the president got, better than saying nothing or just tweeting what he had been tweeting before, it was nowhere near sufficient to send the right kind of message, in my view. That conduct on Capitol Hill is unacceptable. It's un-American, and it has to be renounced in those very clear terms. In addition to saying, "Go home." At least he said that, but you got to say more.
Chris Christie, thanks very much. I want to go to Martha Raddatz out in the streets of the Capitol. The situation escalating?
It is, George, and it looks like they're starting to clear this crowd a little bit right behind me, north side of the Capitol. We heard 3 flashbangs, which means they're trying to push these people back. They were running. Very briefly, this is the area, at least on our side of the Capitol where we are, where there has been the most action. This is the area where these people are saying, "Let me in, let me in." We also heard some glass breaking back there. We obviously don't want to get any closer to that area, but they are starting to move out. There are areas here where some of the Trump supporters have started to leave, but
why are you recording?
But we have some of these people moving out. Obviously, we don't have all of them moving out, and it's pretty wild up here.
The fuck is up with her?
Truly out of control. We have lines of Capitol police officers up there, but there's
Let me get this,
no
what's
police
it called,
presence here. And you're starting to get, again, like the Oath Keepers, and I walked by, and they're clearly making plans about something, asking if they wanted to go back in, and they said they did not. But I have no idea what they're up to. I don't think law enforcement has any idea what they're up to. We have some helicopters circling overhead, but we also have a curfew here at 6 p.m. and whether they start clearing people out before then or after, there's just no telling.
Martha, we just got a flavor of what you've been dealing with all day. Have you ever felt personally in danger today?
I mean, there's definitely threatening remarks to us. I would say this is a very dangerous situation, and as you know well, George, I've been in a lot of very dangerous situations. But it is so horrible to know we are in America where this is happening, on Capitol Hill. I'm not in Baghdad. I'm not in Kabul. I'm not in a dangerous situation overseas. We are in America. And when I know some people have mentioned this today,
I don't know what happened,
when
but
the
I just
rest of the world looks at us
right now,
it is just appalling.
So anyway, that lady who just popped up in the broadcast just made me viscerally upset.
Someone shot inside. And all
we're watching the broadcast, and some random old lady just came over and started screaming at the camera.
Everywhere I look. And certainly there are people who are threatening us. And it is very different from Trump rallies. I often said at Trump rallies, they turn around and say, "We hate you, go home." But then
John
2 minutes
Ossoff and
later,
Raphael
they're
Warnock
shaking
are
your
both
hand.
now U.S. senators.
This time, you don't feel that vibe at all. It is, they're warning us, they're threatening us, they're telling us we're fake. That's the least.
They're telling us we're fake. Imagine walking up to a human being like, "You're fake. You don't exist."
And what this all says about that today, and how out of control this is, and how we were not ready for this. And they don't care what Donald Trump just said. They really don't. It is so out of control and chaotic now. I don't know what the president can do, but I think it's going to take law enforcement to get these people out here.
They just get tear gas already.
Like
Exactly.
we have never seen in a city you've been in.
They're literally just vibing outside and inside of the Capitol.
Tom Yamas, picking up on what the president was saying,
Black
I think
Lives Matter
central
protests
truth
turn violent and
about
get shut
President
down
Trump
very
and his
quickly.
approach
Meanwhile,
to
they're
the
just
office
vibing
in
at
those
the
remarks.
Ritz-Carlton.
He began with, "I feel sympathy for you. I love
BLM
you.
would do it as
We
all of us
love
would
you."
do. There will be a
His
bloodbath if BLM
first
was
and
doing
foremost goal over the last 4 years, if you look at every action, every statement, is to keep that core of the core of the core base bonded to him at the cost of everything else.
Yeah, when you talk to people who have worked for President Trump, either in the private sector or now in the public sector, they will tell you the most important quality, it's not smarts, it's not how to work around a business or politics, it's loyalty. And for Donald Trump, loyalty is the most important thing. So he will never trash the people, the Americans who are doing what we never thought would happen, something we never
Both
thought we'd
you
witness.
and someone in
He will
my
never
YouTube
trash
chat
these
said
people
that
because
Trump
these people are loyal to him. And that message that he put out, and Martha, you know,
Some are saying
rightly
Antifa,
reported,
yeah, we know.
will have no effect
Because
on what
they
we're seeing
can't-
right now. The only thing that's going to change what we're seeing right now is once
they
law
can't mentally
enforcement,
justify
another
the
group.
fact that they back an ideology that's inherently fucking violent, racist, bigoted, and shit. And this is what happens when you guys get upset. They can't mentally cope with that fact, so it must be Antifa agitators. And they're not even gonna impeach him. There's not even a point. The dude's gonna leave. Oh my god. I wish I could run for president in 2024, and I wish that Trump did too, because there's so much shit to fry him about. There's so much.
These demonstrators, these protesters, these anarchists say it will not make a difference. Joe Biden, the president-elect, has spoken as well, calling on the president to do more. What's going to end this is law enforcement, and then after that, the question is, where do we go from here? And I wonder, George, if what we've seen today changes the mind of those Republican senators who were objecting to the Electoral College votes that were coming in today, that were going to be ratified today, that should have been ratified today. I wonder if this changes their sort of calculation when it comes to politics and whatever reasons they had in their head that they wanted to fight this.
Well, let me bring that to Mary Bruce. Thank you, Tom. Mary Bruce, and the members of Congress we've talked to today, the Republicans and the Democrats, there does seem to be some discomfort with what they've seen unfold today. Clear condemnation of the mob from Kevin McCarthy, but they are trying to draw a line between their actions protesting the election and what we're seeing unfold on the Capitol.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of members, especially Republicans, sort of do some twisting here as they try to put some distance between themselves and their calls to object to the results of the election and the actual work that was supposed to be getting done here today and what we are seeing actually unfold in the Capitol. But all of that messaging, of course, gets muddled when the president comes out himself and in trying to urge everyone to go home, in the same breath, repeats these false claims that the election was somehow rigged. It is still very hard for those who are, supporting the president in this effort to try and distance themselves from that message somehow.
Okay, Mary Bruce, thanks very much. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, is now speaking. She has imposed a 6 p.m. curfew in the Capitol. Let's listen in.
I don't think you'll understand how tragic
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Our regularly scheduled program will resume following the...
4, 3.
Good afternoon. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C. I am here at the headquarters of D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department, where we are operating our emergency command center. I'm joined by the district's chief of police, Robert Conti. I'm joined by members of my public safety team. I'm also joined by the Secretary of the Army, Mr. McCartney. This afternoon, I announced a citywide curfew for the District of Columbia beginning at 6 p.m. this evening, going until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. During the curfew, no one is allowed to be outside in public places other than essential workers, which includes credentialed media engaging in essential functions. As you can see from video images, the unlawful behavior inside the United States Capitol building. I continue to urge all Washingtonians to stay home and stay calm. And if you see something, say something. But above all, stay home. The behavior that we are witnessing is shameful, unpatriotic, and above all, it is unlawful. Anyone who has engaged in these activities, continues to engage in these activities, will be held accountable. There will be law and order, and this behavior will not be tolerated. The Metropolitan Police Department has been deployed to assist the United States Capitol Police in restoring order to the Capitol, and our Chief of Police will lead the command to clear the Capitol building and establish a perimeter around the Capitol. I have requested both the Virginia State Police and the Maryland State Police to deploy officers, and they have engaged immediately to deploy. officers to the Metropolitan Police Department to help regain control of the United States Capitol. I have also invoked several days ago a standing mutual aid agreement with our surrounding jurisdictions, and I want to thank them for deploying. Those jurisdictions include Arlington County, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, as well as Baltimore City. We want to thank them for sending their officers in, assisting us with public safety in the district, as well as the response to United States Capitol building. Additionally, I want to acknowledge and thank the New Jersey State Police, who will also be assisting the Metropolitan Police Department. So with that, I want to turn to Chief Conte for a situational update. Secretary of the Army will make comments, and we will take brief questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor Bowser. My name is Robert J. Conte III. I am the Chief of the Police of the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. As you are aware, demonstrators came to our city this morning to exercise their First Amendment rights and were largely concentrated in the area of the National Mall. Following the President's remarks, a large crowd began to march eastbound on Madison Avenue Northwest and Constitution Avenue Northwest. As the demonstrators approached the United States Capitol grounds, there was a noticeable change in their demeanor. They breached the fencing along the U.S. Capitol grounds and confronted police lines surrounding the building. MPD was requested by the United States Capitol Police to provide assistance with crowd management, and due to the violent behavior towards the police officers there and their intent on gaining access to the Capitol, a riot was declared. It was clear that the crowd was intent on causing harm to our officers by deploying chemical irritants on police to force entry into the United States Capitol building. As you are aware, they were able to gain access to the Capitol building, and I can confirm that one civilian was reported to have sustained a gunshot wound inside of the Capitol. Details of the shooting are not immediately available, and the situation remains under investigation. The Metropolitan Police Department...
There you have it from the Chief of Police. There's confirming that one person was shot inside the Capitol. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser talking about the curfew she's imposed at 6 p.m., setting up a security perimeter now around the Capitol this evening, as well as we see those protesters continuing in the Capitol. I want to talk to Congressman Mark Wayne from Oklahoma, who's in the Rayburn House office building right now. I know you've tried to engage with some of the protesters today. What did you learn, Congressman?
Well, I wasn't so much just trying to engage with them. I was trying to keep them from getting shot. When they started breaking the glass out of the chamber, it sounded like shots were fired. Unfortunately, I've heard shots fired before, and that wasn't
I'm going to have to end my live stream.
So I was talking to them because a couple of the people got excited. You've seen the picture. There's some, obviously, Cat Police, rightfully so, have their guns drawn. And so I was telling them, guys, you're going to get shot. You're going to get killed. Is this what you really want to do? And then we just had a conversation to some degree. And there was a couple of them that was reasonable. There was a couple of them that wasn't. There was a couple of them that was just, they were antagonizers, and all they wanted to do was cause problems. And you can't reason with individuals like that. Unfortunately, this doesn't represent America and our democracy. We have a right to protest, but not like this.
Yeah, it's hard to reason once they've broken through.